welcome to the Intuitively Wild podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Levine. Living intuitively wild is about coming back home to ourselves. Here, we talk about how to live connected to ourselves, others, and nature, and make a commitment to radical authenticity, vulnerability, and acceptance. On this podcast, we delve into a wide range of topics that span the human experience. We peel back the layers and talk about the things that are often not talked about. This is a space for us all to walk and wander this path of life together. Let's dig into our roots and go deep. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. I am very excited to be recording this episode because I have been waiting a long time. All of winter to record this episode, and it is our Spring Equinox ritual. For those who are new, every month we sit down and talk about a ritual for some seasonal event happening or some cyclical event happening, whether that's an equinox or a solstice or the full moon, new moon, whatever is going on in the world around us. We come together and ritualize it and celebrate it and create a ceremony around it. And today we are talking about the spring equinox, and it's been a long winter. I don't know about you guys, but it has felt like the most wintry winter I've experienced in a long time. And this is partially because this was my first upstate New York winter, my first full East Coast winter in a very long time. And also it was because this was the first winter where I really allowed myself to winter, like as an adjective, something that you do. And I read the book Wintering a couple years ago when I was living in the UK for a year, and that concept really changed my life, honestly, and starting to embrace seasonal living and how the seasons impact us, and leaning into the 4 seasons has been transformative for me. And I've talked about that in the past, so I won't go into my whole history and story and share all about that. But although I dipped my toe into it and felt like I was fully embracing it, and I did to the extent I could and knew how to, that first winter in England, I didn't yet know how to do it. I was practicing, I was trying, I was learning. And this winter, I am definitely still learning, definitely continue to evolve, and we'll see what next winter brings us. But I really slowed down this year. I really embraced winter to a different degree this year and embraced it in a new way and learned about it in a new way and learned about myself and my relationship with winter and how it impacts me now as who I am now versus who I was when I lived in New York 10 plus years ago. And I learned all about the energetics of winter and how to support myself through winter, what joys are found in winter, the celebrations, the ceremonies, the rituals I can do in winter. And I leaned into that. I really leaned into that. Winter was a season of true, deep inner connection. I hibernated, I slowed down, I reflected, I shed old skin, I set my intentions, and then I let them take the time needed to germinate and process and prepare. And because I did that, I feel so ready for the next chapter in a way I never have been before. And we have finally arrived at that next chapter. So let's not talk about winter anymore. Let's talk about spring. And of course, I am recording this a little bit in advance, so we have yet to reach the spring equinox fully, but I feel it is almost here and I am ready to celebrate it. And for me, spring represents also the energetic new year, because it's the start of Aries season, which is the first sign of the zodiac, and it's a fire sign, and it represents a time when we are coming out of hibernation after winter. Spring is when we reawaken and reconnect to the world around us, winter was the pause, and spring is the embodiment. So for me, this is the new year, new me energy. And I hate that phrase. And I don't mean that in the stereotypical or superficial or commercialized use of the word. And I don't mean it in a forced way that society has created us like it does around January, but in a natural way, a joyful way, excited, hopeful, trusting, because this is the natural energy of spring. Spring brings us this heightened energy. It brings us the desire to connect, to watch our seeds finally bloom and celebrate the world coming alive again after winter. It is no mystery why people set these intentions on January and then quote unquote fall off the wagon or don't have the motivation or are so hard on themselves for not being able to achieve all the goals they set for January. January is the middle of winter for most of us, at least on this hemisphere. And it just doesn't hold that energy. No matter where you are, we're in these energetic frequencies that don't have that get up and go energy. Spring, Aries season, it does. The spring equinox is the time to come out of our hibernation holes and celebrate who we are now ready to be. I don't know about you, but there was so much shedding I had to do this past winter. So much processing, so much reflecting, so much releasing in so many new ways, in such an embodied way. I really had to be present with it all and aware and accept all that was releasing and changing and transforming. And it was uncomfortable and scary and challenging, but because of that, I am ready for spring. So let's celebrate it together. I always call these podcast rituals, and I have yet to decide if I want to change it to ceremony, because really what we're creating is a ceremony. Each component of this practice can be its own ritual, and when you put it together, it creates a cohesive ceremony. And I'm learning more and more about ceremonies and rituals in this course I'm taking, and embodying this in my own life and bringing this into my work in new ways that I'm so excited about. But it's sometimes hard to explain it in short form. So maybe I'll do more of a specific podcast just on that. But for now, we'll call it a ceremony versus a ritual, because what I want you to know is that you can look at this ceremony that we're going to talk about and that is outlined on Substack and pick and choose what you want to do and embody those rituals in your life, and take the different rituals that are the different steps and work it into your life, weave it into your life in whatever way works for you. Or you can bring it all together into a really beautiful, cohesive ceremony. Depends on what sparks your excitement, what you have the capacity for, the time for. But either way, bringing these practices into your life is a way to usher in spring in an embodied and felt way. A ceremony is a time to take space out of our everyday lives and devote energy into time into ritualizing intentional living. And I believe that doing that for the spring equinox is so important, because we're kind of shaking off the dead skin that's flaking and the frozen ice that's been protecting us, and coming back into our bodies and coming back alive and going back out in the world. And so we have to start to reconnect to ourselves in that way. So I really hope you'll take the time to do so with me, to do the ceremony with me, or to take some of the rituals and weave them into your life in whatever way works for you. But I'm going to lay out the ceremony. And remember, like I said, this will be written out on Substack if you prefer to read it or print it out. And also, as always, you can head to YouTube and do the ritual with me there. But let's talk about it. So As always, we start our ceremony before we even begin setting up the space. So we do this so we can get grounded and centered in the energy we want to bring into our ceremony and shake off any energy we want to leave outside of this little space we are creating for ourselves. And we do this because setting up for the ceremony is a core component of our ceremony. Like I said, a ceremony is a time when you kind of go into this different energy than the rest of your world. It reminds us that every step in our life is important, no matter how mundane it may seem or how normal it's become. It reminds us that when we bring intention into the mundane, we remember it is truly magic. So I always begin my ceremony by lighting my candle and setting my intention. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. I really tune into my heart and seek what comes without letting my thinking mind get in the way. And that's why we want to take this pause before we start to have that moment where we're shifting from thinking, doing, action mode to intuition, to inner connection, to some sort of deeper guidance and energy than we normally are always so present with. So I also tend to welcome in all directions in a circle around me. And this is a really specific practice that I've learned through one of my trainings. And I would love to go into more detail if people are interested, but just a general vibe of it. I imagine that I'm the center of a circle and I place my hand to the east and I say, I welcome in the energy of air from the east. Then I move my hand to the south. I say, I welcome in the energy of fire to the south. And then I welcome in the energy of water to the west. I welcome in the energy of earth to the north. And then I place my hands facing palm up and I say, I welcome in the energy of my guides, spirits, benevolent ones above. You can say God, the universe, goddesses, etc., whatever feels good to you. And then I place my hands palms down. I say, I welcome in the energy of my ancestors below. And then I place my hands to my heart and I say, I welcome in the energy of my own intuition and inner knowing. And I say, my heart is open, willing, and ready to connect. And with that, the circle is open. So you can use this as kind of a foundation and play with it. Use your intuition with this process. That is the most important. Let it feel natural and authentic to you. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. And like I said, I've learned this from one of my teachers, but even her way of doing it is different to how I've naturally adapted it to my own practice and to what feels good for me. And even what I'm outlining here isn't exactly what I do. It's just kind of the bones of it, the structure, the foundation for you to see what feels good for you and to maybe have a response to or an invitation to play with. So if you want to know more, let me know. But that is how I open the ceremony and the circle. And next we move into setting up our space. So some space/altar suggestions. I love to have all 5 elements present. So starting with air. Spring is ushering in a sense of clearing and cleaning. So we can use our incense, whichever scent you feel called to right now, to kind of quote unquote clear the air, and then walk around our space either speaking out our intentions out loud, or you can think about your dreams while you're doing this, or you can just kind of feel the new spring energy in your body. You can dance while you're doing this, you can sing, you can play music, kind of see what comes naturally through your body. I always tend to speak something out loud, whether it's a song or my intentions, because I feel like it brings the experience even more present into my body. For many of us, spring ushers in warmer weather, so I recommend welcoming in the spring air. Perhaps you open your doors and windows and really let the air be cleared and push away any stale or stagnant air that may have gotten stuck in the wintertime when we couldn't open our windows and doors so freely and openly. Or you could do this whole ritual outside. I am hoping to do that if the weather is warm enough. And this new air, like I said, will clear out the stuck, stagnant, or stale energy and welcome in the new, fresh, and revitalized. And I don't know about you, but I am so looking forward to spending as much time as possible outside in the warm spring air. And then for fire, this is again to support this clearing the air process. You can place a candle in the corners of your house to symbolize the burning and releasing of the old and stepping into the energy of the new. I love using candles that are connected to the season we are in or the intention we are stepping into. So I will be lighting all of my favorite spring scented candles and speaking my spring intentions into them as I light them in the different corners of the room that I'll be doing my ceremony in, or just around, say, my yoga mat or by my altar. And like we were talking about earlier, the spring equinox ushers in Aries season, which is a fire sign. So we're really stepping into the embodiment of fire energy and having as many candles around or whatever fire around us as we can, as much fire around us as we can, will help us channel that fire energy. Okay, water. So a beautiful water ritual for spring is to wash our altar. Get some water from a fresh source nearby and gently wash your space down, preparing it for the new. Perhaps you have an altar that you use. You can clean it off and wash it, or just wash the space where you're doing your ceremony, wash your bedroom, whatever is a space that feels like it needs some spring clearing. Use some water and clean it. You can also go outside and collect water from any fresh water source nearby and place that on your altar. If you remember, in our Imbolc ceremony, we collected snow from outside and placed it on our altar. And so now placing fresh water versus the frozen snow on our altar is a representation of the frozen snow melting and turning into something new. And that hard protective shell of ice that has kind of encased us and surrounded us through winter is now softening and revealing what was happening underneath. Okay, and next, earth. So we can bring earth into our spring ceremony and altar in so many ways. Perhaps you have seeds that you are planting that you want to place around your home, or new blooms from flowers you picked outside. Perhaps you found a rock on your first spring walk that you collect, or you went to the garden store nearby and got some spring blooms. That can be a ritual all on its own. Really follow your intuition to see where spring is taking you in order to celebrate her new form. And then spirit. So I believe that every plant has a spirit and an energy and a message to share with us. So with this mindset, I urge you to pick one of the plants that we are about to talk about from our herbal companions and complete the plant meditation that we're going to talk about after that from our yoga therapy tools, and place that plant and the letter that you will write yourself from that yoga therapy practice onto your altar. So more on that soon. Let's talk about our herbal companions. So these plants can be utilized in many different ways throughout this ritual and throughout the entire spring season. You can use them in an herbal infusion, a salve, a body oil, a tincture. You can plant them in your garden. One of the most impactful ways to reap the full benefits of a plant is to work with it consistently for a certain period of time. So maybe you choose one or all of these plants as your spring companions and use them in some way every day of spring or once a week throughout all of spring. And if you'd like some pre-made products to support your rituals and your ceremonies, you can head to the website or reach out to me and find the perfect herbal infusion or body oil or tincture for you for this spring season. Just like with winter, I am doing a seasonal shifts spring product line, but they will probably only be available at my Spring Equinox ceremony. And going forward, a lot of my products are probably only going to be offered at these ceremonies and rituals and in-person events. more on that soon. But I will always be available for consultations if you want something personalized or for the products that we do already have on the website. Okay, our first herbal companion for spring is raspberry leaf. And this one I chose because it really evokes the energy of spring. This herb helps us ground into the present moment, empowers us to embody our authenticity and intuition with confidence, and provides a nourishing dose of antioxidants. Next is calendula, which supports anxiety and grief, allowing us to step into the next chapter with grounding, peace, and healing. She calms rashes, soothes scars, and softens wounds. She really supports us in this process of stepping into a new chapter and softens that process for us because it can be really challenging, both physically on our skin or our immune system or nervous system, and also emotionally on our mental health and emotional well-being. And that's another reason why I chose yarrow, because yarrow is a wildflower that soothes any reactivity in our body, mind, and spirit. It is known as the protector and warrior plant and is here to soften your spirit and strengthen your roots. Calendula and yarrow can both be found on products at the online apothecary, but raspberry leaf is right now only in our spring seasonal products, but is very easy to find and work with, and I highly recommend seeking out whatever way you feel called to work with these plants. Okay, yoga therapy tools. So let's talk about that plant meditation that I referred to before. So for this meditation, choose one of the herbal companions that we just talked about, or whatever plant you're feeling most drawn to right now. And again, require it in whatever form you feel drawn to. So my favorite is an herbal infusion, which for this context, we can just say is another word for saying an herbal tea. Or I also love a body oil / salve. But see what feels good to you and what you are drawn to. So if you're not able to physically get some of this plant, you can even print out a picture of it or simply channel its energy, because again, plants are energetic beings and you can channel the energy of a plant. If you're feeling called to it, it's for a reason, and partially because, probably mostly because you're feeling that the need for that energy and you're feeling called to that energy. So you can even just sit and feel into the energy of the plant. Once you have collected it or found your way to connect to it, find a comfortable, quiet, and safe space to sit with your plant, just like you're about to go into any sort of typical meditation, any seating position or way of being that supports you. And then ask your plant, what message do you have for me for the spring season? And then sit with it for at least 5 minutes. You can close your eyes and breathe as if you are in a traditional meditation, or you can keep your eyes open. Perhaps you drink your tea through this process or lather the herb-infused body oil on your skin. Perhaps you light a candle infused with the plant and just focus on looking at the flame or smelling the scent, or place a few drops of the plant tincture under your tongue. However you feel called to connect with the plant, do so and sit with it and allow the messages to come through. No expectations, no judgments. Just see what happens. Just see what thoughts come up. And once you have sat with it, open your journal and write whatever came to you. And if you're having trouble connecting, if nothing's coming to you or you're questioning everything or just getting stuck in your thoughts, you can write the same question at the top of a page and start a stream of consciousness writing session. Just write at the top of your page, what message does this plant have for me for the spring season? And then just start writing and writing and writing. And again, don't judge or alter what you wrote. Just let it come out. Our other yoga therapy tool is grounding, also known to some as earthing, and it really is as simple as it sounds. We want to get outside and get on the earth. We just want to ground. All this requires that you place some part of your body on the earth. My 2 recommendations the first one you can do anytime. So easy. Take off your socks and shoes and get your feet in the earth. Really sink your toes in. Feel your feet rooted below you and feel the energy from below fill you up as you reach your head towards the sky. And, ideally you can also feel the sunshine and the warmth coming in from above and grounding you even deeper into the roots and into the ground below you. And maybe you take time to do that every day in spring, or at least once a week. The second suggestion is similar, but just a little bit more full on, and it's just to lay down on the earth, clothed or unclothed. You can start on your stomach and then after some time switch to your back. But while you're doing it, really focus on letting your body relax and release into the earth. Notice the energy shift within you with each breath you take. Focus on each breath, letting your body soften. Okay, and once we have done these practices, we can grab our journal and reflect. I have found it really helpful to always do the yoga therapy tools before this reflection process because it ensures that we are really in this process. And it really grounds us and brings us into this energy and ceremony fully. So our reflection questions for the spring equinox. What did winter ask or force you to shed? What was the greatest lesson winter taught you? How did winter feel for you? What are you proud of yourself for from the winter season? What are you leaving behind in winter? What energy are you feeling ready to embrace as you step into spring? If you would like, you can pause after each question and process and just think about your responses. But I highly recommend writing them out and taking some time to do them in that way. And as always, like I said before, they are written out on the Substack as well. So you can go back and look at them there. So once you have written out your reflections and processed them, we move into our intentions. And spring is all about our intentions. Spring is the time of new beginnings, and it's a time of being a beginner. It is the fresh energy, the baby taking its first steps. It's feeling healthy again after being sick. It's the energy of the first day of your new dream job. You are ready, energized, excited, and yet you're uncertain. You're an amateur. You're the newbie. And the only way to learn, grow, and become the master is to play, try, and experiment. This is the season to live lightly and not take it all so seriously. Be the baby looking at the world in awe and wonder for the first time. Protect your fresh, new, sensitive skin, but move about the world with trust, with aware, grounded, and yet perhaps a little reckless trust. And in order to get to your spring intentions, ask yourself, what are you ready to start in this season? What is lingering from winter? What is bringing you joy right now? Where are you feeling excited and pulled to pour your energy into? What do you hope blossoms in your life this spring? And then from the answers above, list out 1 to 5 things in your life you want to embody, create, or bring to life this season. And I like to imagine them as flowers blossoming from the winter seeds that we planted. And then grab an index card, or you can do this on your journal, and write down, I'm ready to watch my flowers grow. And then create an I am statement for each of the intentions that you listed. So, for example, if you're hoping to manifest a move, you could say, I am living in my new home, feeling grounded, at peace, and safe. And do that for the 1 to 5 things in your life that you wrote down from your intention questions. And once you've written out your I am intentions for each flower you're growing this spring, put that piece of paper somewhere you can look at it every day. You want to connect to these intentions every day this spring, and even say these I am statements out loud, or to a friend, or to someone that you trust, even to yourself in the mirror, to your dog. Say them out loud every day. And that brings us to the end of our ceremony. So at the end of your ceremony, place a hand on your heart and acknowledge yourself for all of your growth, for your presence, for your devotion to yourself. Acknowledge what you are releasing, commit to what you are stepping into, and promise to stay connected to all that was revealed to you during this ceremony. Don't rush this part. Take time to really connect within. The transition from winter to spring is a big one. And it's important that we really acknowledge the process that we have been through and the new chapter that we are stepping into. And then when you are ready, snuff out your candle and say a closing intention. So just as we began the ritual, we can close it by thanking and acknowledging all the directions, and perhaps moving in the opposite direction this time. So you can say, I thank the earth to the north. Thank you, water to the west. Thank you, fire to the south. Thank you, earth to the east. Thank you, guides, spirits, benevolent ones above. Thank you, ancestors down below. Thank you to my intuition, my inner knowing, and my heart for leading me through this ceremony. The ceremony is now complete, but I promise to stay open and connected. The circle is now closed. And I always repeat that 3 times. The circle is now closed. The circle is now closed. The circle is now closed. And with that, we come to the end of our ceremony. And this practice that we just went through here, me recording this is a ritual, and us listening to this together, you listening to this is a ritual. And I'm so grateful you took the time to intentionally turn this podcast on and listen. And even you doing this, just listening to this, is you walking into that spring energy with intention, is you starting that processing process. This is you choosing to take the time to do something for yourself, to reflect, to be intentional, to create a ritual, to start to embody this way of being in your life. And I think you should be proud of yourself and really give yourself that acknowledgement. And I'm grateful for you for taking the time to listen. It means so much to me. I'd love to hear how this felt for you, what your ceremony looks like, what rituals in this you felt really called to and excited by, or that you made your own, or that you left out. I would love to hear all the things. I'm hosting my first live event for the Spring Equinox. It is March 19th, so pretty much right when this comes out. I think actually the day that this comes out. Yes, it is. And I'm very excited about it. If you're listening to this now, it's too late to get tickets, but there will be many more in-person situations, events, ceremonies, etc. to come. So if you are in the New York area or ever around here, please look out for those, and just look out for all the things to come. I'm very excited for my blossoms to bloom, my flowers to grow this spring season. And I'm just grateful to be on this journey with you all. So thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I hope it helped deepen your connection to yourself, sparked some insights, and inspired you to live intuitively wild. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would share it with others and leave a rating and review. And please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you. I will see you next time for more magic.